Let's go ahead and open it up to media questions.
If you would like to ask a question, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. Once again, to ask a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Lee Barfnett of Omaha World Herald.
Dr. Mason, can you discuss whether informally or formally there were discussions about expelling Penn State from the league?
We had discussions that ranged the full range of opportunities in terms of what we as a conference might or should do with regards to Penn State. So everything was on the table. Everything was discussed.
Was there any move forward with that or a move to go that direction?
No, there was not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Sam McEwen of Omaha World Herald.
This is a procedural question of some sort. Penn State players have been allowed to transfer immediately. Will the Big Ten informally frown upon any team that accepts a transfer player from Penn State?
Jim, do you want me to take that, or do you?
Sure. Go ahead, Sally. Unless you want me to, I'll be happy to if you want me to. We had a discussion of that issue yesterday among the presidents, and I think their first thought on it is that their students first, athletes second, that the conference has some limitations in terms of internal transfers, but that the students in this situation need to be the ones that are their interests need to be prioritized, and so as a result, we'll take a very close look at the NCAA declaration here about freedom to transfer, and I think our first inclination is to allow those students to have the most amount of freedom and flexibility if they choose to transfer. And so I think on first blush, our orientation would be to support as much freedom as possible for those students.
Jim is absolutely correct. The presidents yesterday felt that this was an exceptional situation that required some exceptional thinking in terms of how we would deal with this particular aspect of transfer and eligibility of student athletes.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Brian Bennett of ESPN.com.
Jim, I was just wondering, given the potential competitive problems that Penn State may face, if this would lead to any consideration of realignment of the divisions in the future.
We have not discussed that. I don't think that it would. Obviously, they'll be ineligible for postseason play. There are a number of other competitive sanctions that will affect them. You never say never, but my inclination is that, with the leadership in place, President Erickson, Dave Joyner, Coach O'Brien, I think they're looking to the future. I think they all understood that serious sanctions were possible, and I don't think that we have any plans to realign teams and institutions. Our structure is set for decades and not years. It's based on decades of data and decades of competitiveness. Institutions' competitiveness ebbs and flows. Obviously, the sanctions will undermine competitiveness in the short term and perhaps the midterm, but I don't think that will lead to a serious discussion of realignment of divisions.
And is there a concern about competitive balance for this coming season with two teams in the same division ineligible for the conference championship game?
I mean, I think that clearly will have a competitive impact. I think to say that it wouldn't, would not be would not be what I think. At the same time, we have divisions, we have schedules, we have reality. We will deal with it, and it will have an impact. There's no doubt about it when two teams in the same division are ineligible. You only have 4 teams competing for that divisional title, and that's a very significant competitive effect. But I don't see us making any structural changes as we look forward to the 2012 season.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Randy Peterson of the Des Moines Register.
Good morning, and both of you, if could address this if possible. What about collateral damage financially, that the money that Penn State receives from the Big Ten, what collateral damage it would have on other programs?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Other programs within the school. Could Penn State be forced to cut back on non-revenue producing sports, for example?
The way I heard Mark Emmert and President Ray's comments today was that there'll be a $60 million penalty. It will be received over a 5-year period, and that the conditions associated with it will be that, number one, opportunities and programs at Penn State in intercollegiate athletics will not be reduced as a result of that, and scholarship monies available to students would not be negatively impacted by that. So that's what I heard them say. Sally, I don't know if you have any other comments beyond that.
Oh, I heard the same thing, Jim, and I would also emphasize that our financial penalty in this case also impacts the football program directly because it has to do with the bowl shared revenue that Penn State would normally receive from the Big Ten Conference, that those are the dollars would be contributed towards agencies that deal with the protection of children.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Tim May of Columbus Dispatch.
Thank you very much. I would just like to ask both of you for your reaction. Or at this moment, are you, with 2 of your 12 teams now in a postseason ban situation, Ohio State for 1 year, Penn State for 4, is the feeling, are you folks, is the feeling embarrassment? How would you term what you feel in your gut as far as, like, what kind of message this sends about the Big Ten or the black eye this puts on the Big Ten? And then number 2, Jim Delaney, was there any thought given at all about games from other schools against Ohio State and Penn State not counting necessarily in the conference standings this year?
Sally, you want to go?
I'll start with this is not a proud moment for the Big Ten Conference, without a doubt. And all of us are taking this very seriously. We all realize that the situations that institutions face can happen to any Division I or other Big Ten school. And these are things that are heavy on our minds these days as we go forward. And I'll leave the rest to Jim to address.
I'd agree with Sally. There's pain, there's frustration, and concern. And we're hoping that out of this, that we will get better, that everybody will take the lesson. I think that we have had programs in the past, and I think part of the problem in this situation was both with the program and with leadership that spoke to the issue of concentration of power. What is concentration of power? I guess it's a combination of strong personality, lots of success, some celebrity that comes together in a way that challenges the control of the sports program or programs, undermines the controls that are in place to make sure that institutional values are dominant and not subordinate to intercollegiate athletics. Oftentimes lines aren't clear enough Oftentimes, administrators or executives are not in favored positions relative to sports personalities or sports success. So I'm hoping out of this that all administrators, executives, and coaches take away a lesson that allows us in the future to become much better. There's no doubt that what happened at Penn State has been bad for Penn State, and it's reflected on all of our members, and that's why you see the collective action taken today by our board. With respect to the second question about the impact of wins and losses, the NCAA has declared that the Penn State wins, accumulated since 1998 in the sport of football, are voided. We accept that. We'll adjust our records accordingly, and that's all we'll do in that regard.
Yeah, Jim. What I was asking though was whether or not y'all talked at all about possibly the other schools' games against these two teams this year not counting necessarily in the conference standings.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Terry Hutchins of Indianapolis Star.
I haven't seen much talked about in terms of television, but was there any thought given to limiting Penn State's football television exposure over the next 4 years as well?
We were waiting to see what the NCAA would do. The fact of it is we had a general idea that the sanctions would be broad, deep, and lengthy. We looked at what wasn't done, and we understood television was not impacted, and we looked at our own championship. We looked at their relationship to us, the $60 million fine, the $13 million fine, and we thought all things taken together that what had been done was sufficient, and that television and playing of the actual games, along with other privileges of membership, should not be impacted.
Our next question comes from Mark Wogenrich of Allentown Morning Call.
Commissioner Delaney, I wanted to address this one to you. What, in your opinion, what is the overall net effect of the sanctions specifically on the football program, not just in the 4 years, but beyond?
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry, the first part.
Sure, I'm sorry. What, in your opinion, will the net effect or the net impact of the NCAA sanctions and the Big Ten sanctions be on the football program, not just over the 4 years, but beyond that?
That's really hard to tell. Each case is unique. I would agree that the sanctions in this case are, lengthy, they're broad, they're significant. And I think they will definitely have an effect, but only time will tell. I think it has to do with how committed the players are who are there, how willing players are to be part of a new future and a new day, and to be part of Penn State. Penn State remains a great American university. It's got one of the great athletic departments in the country. It's got a fan base that is really second to none. And so I think that, depending upon the leadership, I know that Dave Joyner is committed to the right kind of leadership. President Erickson is, and Coach O'Brien is, if you take their statements at face value. So I think they're into it for the long run, and I think if you can persuade players to commit to the new values and make that kind of commitment, that you can be competitive. How competitive is sort of to be determined, and I don't really have a strong sense of what that means, but I do have a strong sense that many of the ingredients for success are still at Penn State and will be there in future years.
Our next question comes from Colleen Kane of Chicago Tribune.
In regards to the vacated wins, how will you adjust the conference standings for those years? Jim?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that we will adjust the conference standings. The NCAA probably hasn't, directed us in that respect, and we would probably have a discussion among our administrators that's a level of detail that we have not addressed, but I think we'll probably take a look at that. And I don't really know in the past when the NCAA has vacated wins as a result of NCAA violations exactly what we've done, but it's probably very likely that whatever we've done in prior cases we would do in this case.
Our next question comes from Gary DePola of Pittsburgh Tribune-Review newspaper.
Yes, I was wondering if you could maybe clarify and maybe embellish your comments on what this means to the other sports at Penn State. The other sports, the so-called minor Olympic sports, really depend heavily on football revenues, and those revenues now are going other places. How do you think it will impact those other sports?
Well, if I take Mark Emmert's comments on face value, at face value, the fine is significant. It's $60 million, which I think was an approximation of 1 year's gross revenue from the sport of football, prorated over a five-year payment plan, if I understood what he was saying. And so what that essentially means is that those dollars will come from the institution, from intercollegiate athletics, but in a way that doesn't undermine the funding for Olympic sports programs or scholarships in those programs. So net, I don't expect it to have any substantial effect on those teams, those programs, and those athletes.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Todd Jones of Columbus Dispatch.
Hey, Jim, I was wondering now with such a brand program like a Penn State in football being in essence crippled by these type of sanctions for the next several years, does this change the league's thoughts about expansion in the future? Will you now consider the idea of expanding beyond 12?
This has no impact on expansion.
What is the current state right now in regards to what the Big Ten stance is on expanding in the future?
It hasn't changed at all. We're not active.
Our next question comes from David Jones of Harrisburg Patriot.
My question was asked by Terry Hutchins. I'll pass. It was about television.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Michael Pointer of the Indianapolis Star.
I'd like to address this both to Jim and to President Mason. Both of you, President Ray from Oregon State at the end of the near the end of the news conference today made what I thought was kind of a telling comment. He said if Penn State would have been as transparent with this a year ago at this time as they should have been, we wouldn't be here today. And I thought that was a pretty telling statement. Do you both agree with that in hindsight? And also, Graham Spanier and Tim Curley were colleagues of yours that you worked with for years and years and years. Just for both of you, what's kind of your emotions right now towards them? Is there some anger, betrayal? Just kind of what's your sense to both of those gentlemen at the moment?
Sal, you want to lead? You want me to?
I'll start, Jim. I would say that, and I've been in my position for about 5 years, had the opportunity to get to know President Spanier and came to respect him as someone who had a long and at the time respected tenure at Penn State. It was, and it continues to be, a great shock to me personally as this continues to unravel. There's no doubt, and here in Iowa, we certainly are trying to be as open and transparent as we possibly can be, and the media asks hard questions. They ask I think the important questions frequently, and we try and provide as much information as we possibly can to answer those kinds of questions. So to your first question, I do believe that a culture issue that involves less transparency or less willingness to be accountable or address situations as they arise can in fact lead to the situation that Penn State is now facing. and they can learn from that. Some of us have been perhaps more exposed to an open and transparent culture and more willing to work within that kind of a culture than a Penn State has. But at least to the issue of the senior administrators at Penn State and what is now becoming apparent with regard to their behaviors, it is disappointing. It is a shock. I wouldn't describe anger as one of my emotions, but certainly it's stunning in so many ways to see the failures of the administration.
Yeah, the first question, I'm not sure that I was really tracking, or maybe we heard different things. When President Ray said that if Penn State administrators had been more transparent, I guess I thought he was referring to actions or activities that went back years, not went back 1 year, but maybe I misheard him. So if you could clarify that question first, and then I'll also give you my comments on the individual.
Yeah, fair point, and maybe I'll go back and listen to the tape and just see what you said. My impression at the time is that if Penn State would have acted on this, a year ago at this time.
That's not what I heard.
Okay, all righty. Well, I
may have misheard. You may have misheard. I don't know.
Fair enough. But
I thought he was referring back to the period 1998 to 2001.
Well, let me Jim, that's fair. Let me just ask you then, what's you worked with those Penn State folks for a lot of years since they came into the conference, I guess. What was kind of your feeling as this was announced? And I know the president didn't use the word anger. How about you? Were you pretty ticked off?
It's a great question. It's a difficult question. I'll try to be as honest as I can. Graham Spanier has been a friend for 15 years. Tim has been a friend longer. I didn't know Gary Schultz as well, but I knew him and had regard for him. And Coach Paterno, I've had a tremendous respect for over many decades. So on a personal level, it's sadness, and I think that the information. What I have to do is take my respect and friendship, and put it on the table. But I also have to take the free report and the findings of the free report that have been adopted by the institution. And are the basis for the NCAA action, Penn State's place and how they view this, and also the Big Ten's place on how they viewed it. And I accept those. I accept those findings, and therefore, as I look at my friendship and my relationship over many years, it's impacted. Anger is probably not the right word. Sadness, pain, hurt. But I have to also put that in the context of the tremendous damage and harm that was done to the young people as a result of the omissions and the acts of the people that were involved, and also the tremendous harm that was done to Penn State and ultimately to the other members of the Big Ten, and even to a greater extent to intercollegiate athletics and programs around the country, because there's been great damage done. Hopefully we can all learn something from this, that the lines about control and the public support for administrators and executives who are trying to protect institutional values, and that the cult of success in sport doesn't, again, overwhelm institutions' need to make sure that intercollegiate athletics is subordinate to the mandate and the mission of higher education at each one of our campuses. And for that opportunity, I'm hopeful, but for what's happened in the past, I'm very sad.
We have time for questions from one more media member.
Our next question comes from Mike Halass of Cedar Rapids Gazette.
You've touched on this in various ways, but I'll just ask a direct question on this. How much has the Big Ten been damaged by this, and what can you do or what will you try to do to come back from it?
Sal, you want to go? You want me to go?
Why don't you start, Jim?
Okay. I think the damage is not irreparable, because I think that we're resilient, and as people, as leaders, our institutions have been operating for 150 plus years. We're part of the culture. We contribute to society. We've been damaged, but not mortally damaged. I think we have an opportunity to redeem. I'm hopeful that we can learn lessons from this and become better as a result of this. So I would say it's as damaging as any set of actions or activities that I've been involved with in my 33 years as a commissioner. I accept that as fact, but I also believe that there's an opportunity, a hope for redemption, improvement, and resilience. So on the basis of resilience, I take both the note of how much damage has been caused, but I also believe that there's dawn, that the dark ends and the morning comes.
I would just add to Jim's comments, the presidents continue to work very, very hard to not only understand the situation and how the situation has arisen, but to learn from it, to take this as an opportunity to really reemphasize and refocus our institutions on what we do best, which is educating students and making the world a better place. So we have a lot of room, I think, for improvement, a lot of room for growth, and as Jim said, I think this is an opportunity for us to rise up, be resilient, and redeem ourselves in the eyes of our fans and future fans.
All right, that completes today's teleconference. I'd like to thank President Mason and Commissioner Delaney for joining us today.